Hey everyone, and welcome to Cash Out. My name is Kenneth Suna. Cash Out is my weekly YouTube show where I talk about what happened in the stock market last week and what might happen in the stock market next week. Now, before we get started, if you're listening on podcast, you don't see what's happening here right now. I have moved because I am allergic to my houseplants. So I'm in front of the window. It's also snowing here in DC today, so that's pretty. And if you notice that the sound is maybe a little off, that is because I got a new phone case, and my old phone case, the microphone was able to plug in. The new phone case, this doesn't fit, so I am sans microphone. So anyway, if the sounds a little off, now you know why. And hopefully it's fixed next week, and I'll find out something to do about the lights and all that stuff. Anyway, what a week. And I'm mostly going to talk about GameStop and AMC and what happened, because the amount of messages that I'm getting this week from people who got absolutely crushed is a little bit, I'm not a big believer in told you so's. I don't like saying told you so. Well, we called this, because that doesn't do anyone any good. Right, and it just makes you look like a smug asshole when you come out and go like, well, I knew. And people who are hurting today, they know what they did wrong. So they don't need to be lectured. But there are things that they can learn from this. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I understand that I supported what Wall Street Bets was doing with this whole Wall Street takedown. I really did. I got it. The predatory loans, the endless amounts of bailouts, treating the money like a casino. They lose, they get a bailout. They lose, they get a bailout. And meanwhile, American families are hurting, and they were hurting in 2008. And who got bailouts? The banks, the brokerage, the hedge funds, the billionaires. And where were we? Hurting. People lost their 401ks, their pensions got devastated. I understand the anger. And the problem is, here we are 10 plus years later, and the same thing is happening. It's COVID this time, but people are hurting. They're waiting in line at food banks. They have no money. They have no savings. Their investments are being completely wiped out, if they even have investments. And who's getting bailouts? The money's going to the billionaires again. The money's going to the mega corporations. It's not going to the people who need it. So I understood the frustration, but at the same time, as someone who's been trading stocks for 10 years, to clarify, I'm not a Wall Street guy. I'm a stock trader. And I know, you're in finance. You're in this Wall Street world. I'm in this Wall Street world because it allows me the ability to work from home. It allows me the ability to not have to go out there and get a 9-to-5 job where I'm going to be micromanaged. It allows me to live my life by my terms. That's why I do it. I don't do it because I am a Wall Street guy. I didn't major in finance. I didn't even go to college. So I'm not a Wall Street guy. I just chose this because it was something that would allow me to work in a way that I was comfortable, not having a manager stand over me with a clipboard going like, why, I couldn't do that anymore. I'd done it for a very long time, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And stock trading was there. That being said, I completely understand the desire to take down these funds and take down these hedge funds and then the brokerages and Wall Street and all that. But there's a couple things you have to know. First of all, this could have been the greatest transfer of wealth in a long time. Maybe not the greatest, but it could have been the stepping stone to a transfer of wealth. But nobody took their profits. And I see a lot of people also saying like, hey, if you have a loss but you don't take it, it's not technically a loss. Not a loss till you sell. But in a way it is a loss because you don't have access to that money anymore. And so if you are sitting on a 70% loss, yeah, you didn't lose 100% of your money, but in a way you did because you don't have access to that money anymore. And if you're not going to sell and recoup your $3,000 or $300 or whatever you have left, then essentially you have lost all your money. You can't trade stocks. You can't make investments. You can't touch it unless it comes back. And the reality is a lot of these companies, these garbage companies, in my personal experience, they don't come back. I learned that lesson the hard way. I learned the same lesson that people are learning today. And what I had hoped, one of my hopes with my channel here, was that people would, let me move a little bit, was that people would learn from my experiences and go like, oh, this guy, you know, like I didn't have TikTok, I didn't have Instagram, I didn't have YouTube when I first started. There was no one that I could go on a message board or Discord and go like, can you help me? So that's the reason I have this. I don't charge, I don't want to charge, I don't want your money. I would rather you invest your money than give it to me. So, you know, I'm coming out here and I'm saying like, you guys, you should sell. When you talk about the transfer of wealth, so many people are sitting there going, we've gotten no stimulus. I'm waiting in line at food banks. I don't have money for groceries. I'm back. I owe 6 months or 9 months of back rent. My debt is mounting. I don't know what to do. And then they did this amazing thing on Wall Street Bets and on Reddit where they banded together and they realized that they could squeeze the stock and A, hurt Wall Street, and B, maybe make a little bit of money, but they got so caught up in destroying these funds that they forgot to take their profits. And the reality is, I know some people didn't want profits. It wasn't about money for them. But when you're hurting and you've made some money on a stock, it's not a bad thing to take it, right? Especially if you owe 6 months of back rent, especially if you're waiting in line at a food bank and you don't have money for groceries. It's, of course, a smart thing to do. But what happened? People started to vilify each other. If you take your profits, you are a paper hands coward. And then there's all these new terms, right? Paper hands, diamond hands. You know, diamond, suddenly it's like a thing to be proud of to lose all your money. The reality is these hedge funds don't give a shit. To them, it's money by any means necessary. They don't care what they have to do to get it or make it. And they don't care about your little agenda. They don't care about your goal. They don't care about any. I guarantee you these hedge funds weren't sitting there going like, oh no, Reddit's coming out. What they were probably doing was, all right, let's profit along with these people and let's inflate the stock price and let's create memes, which we know they did, and let's create posts on social media to drive the price higher. Yeah, hurt these banks. Yeah, keep buying, keep buying. The reality is we don't have the spending power that they do. And I was saying this all week, and what did I get called? I got called a suit, which is a joke because I don't even own a suit. And I also got called a Wall Street guy in a t-shirt just for saying take profits, because if you're not with us, you're against us. And the reality is it doesn't matter, because Wall Street is going to make money on both sides of this. As we will see in the weeks and months that follow, we will learn who made what. Because they don't have to disclose it right away. And the joke is like, you had all these stock talkers coming out going like, this is how it is, this is how it goes. And you had these people who were going on social media, not just Reddit, but StockTwits, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all these groups, all these Discords, and they were spreading all this massive misinformation about how the markets work. Like one of the things that I saw was, and it reminded me of these conspiracy, like doom, end of the world conspiracy theory people. They would say like, you guys, Tuesday's the big day because a lot of shorts expire. Shorts don't expire, right? They don't. There's no set expiration on a short. Now, brokerages can come in and say, hey, you've got a very big loss on your short. You have to sell, because they're on the hook too. The banks and the brokerages who are letting you short, they're responsible too. They've got money on the line as well. So if you buy GameStop at 400 and now it's 175, the brokerage can come to you and they can say, you're going to get a margin call because you don't have enough money to cover your losses. You need to sell now. And they don't even have to give you a warning. And so that's what we're seeing now. A lot of these brokerages just came into your account and sold. And people are going, how can they do it? Well, it's called a margin call and they can do it. They normally would write you first. I think because this happened so quickly and went so kind of viral in a way, it was just panic on their on their behalf. Maybe they thought, just fuck it, go in and start selling, which they can do if you have a margin call. So we had all this misinformation flying around like, oh, the options and the shorts are expiring. Shorts don't expire. And so when you have, and I understand the hope, and the excitement. And some of us stock talkers could have been perceived as a little bit of a Debbie Downer. Like, no, you guys, You should get out, because we've seen this before. And I'm gonna give a shout out here to Kelechi, because I know he watches all these videos. We were all saying the same thing: take profits, take profits. And some people were going, it's not about the profits, but it should have been. It should have been about the profits, because there was no lesson that you really taught Wall Street, right? Unfortunately, you didn't teach them anything. In fact, the only thing that you taught them was retail investors can band together and hurt them a little bit. So now they're going to do whatever they can to restrict the retail investor. So if anything, after all of this is said and done, yes, and the joke was, I saw so many people saying, like, we're going to take down these hedge funds. And the experienced traders were like, no, you're not. They're gonna profit on the way up, right? Because they're buying along with you. And I've said this in a couple of videos. Even though you were hurting 2 or 3 hedge funds, there were a lot who were piggybacking and taking advantage of what Wall Street Bets was doing. They were on Wall Street Bets, right? They were probably there going, yeah, keep buying, don't sell, drive the price higher. And even though they have the majority buying power, right, we don't outmatch them. And that's one of the things that I saw. Like, a lot of people were going like, don't sell. And we've started to vilify each other. And when you say, like, don't sell to the guy who owns 2 shares, it's the guy, like, that's what I saw so much on TikTok. I saw so many people on TikTok saying stuff like I bought 2 shares. I bought 1 share. If it's AMC, I bought 20 shares. Some people were throwing in thousands. I bought 5,000. I saw one guy bought 3,600 shares. People were throwing in either humongous sums of money, or they were just throwing in a little bit because they wanted to be a part of this and take down Wall Street and whatever. But the thing you have to understand is these hedge funds have tremendous buying power. And there's not just like 5 hedge funds, right? There's thousands of hedge funds. And probably most of them weren't even paying attention, but some of them were probably along for the ride, and a few got hurt. But they have billions of dollars, right? Hundreds of millions, if not billions. And so when we band together, everyone on Wall Street Bets can buy 1 share. What do you think we're buying on average? 10 million shares, maybe? And not all of them held, right? A lot sold and took their profits smartly, but a lot didn't. So really, at the end of the day, maybe the retail investors added to this, 10, 20 million shares that were probably being exchanged and traded a lot, and some were being held. Compare that to the hedge funds and the banks and the brokerages who are buying 6 million shares. We can't outmatch them. And so I saw a lot of people going like, we changed Wall Street. All you changed was they're going to regulate the retail investors. And they'll do whatever they have to do to win, legal or otherwise, right? And the thing, I saw so much like shock when they started to halt trades and then restrict trade. Well, why are you so surprised? The whole point of this battle that you waged on them was to take them down for the way they manipulate markets. And now you're surprised that they've manipulated markets? The whole thing they do tons of illegal stuff. And I said, like, I did some videos and they were like, well, that would be illegal. They wouldn't do it. Well, of course they would do it. They always do illegal things. And then sometimes they get caught and they go to jail, and sometimes they don't get caught. They're hedge funds. That's what they do. They manipulate stuff. There's no surprise here from the experienced traders. We all saw this coming. And we tried to warn you, but when you have so much misinformation and you have so many people going like, GameStop is going to 1,000, AMC is going to 250, Dogecoin is going to $1. Like, I get it. I get that appeal. That's exciting. But it's only exciting if you would plan on taking profits, right? Like, even still, my big thing, all my videos from the last few weeks were, but what if it doesn't? But it will. Why? And nobody could answer that question except to say, well, some guy on Reddit said so, or some guy on StockTwits, or some guy on TikTok. Who are these people? And why are you listening to them? And I think that's another lesson that a lot of people will, you know what? Maybe I'm just allergic to my apartment because I have moved away from my plants and my nose is still itching. What is different about this area of my apartment that's making me itch, but not over there where I'm sitting by my couch? I'm very confused. And now I also forgot what I was saying. What was I saying? Oh, when you have these people who are out there going like these things are going to go to the moon. Of course you want it to go to the moon because that's exciting. And you do the math and you figure out how much you can make, and you're like, oh my God, if it goes to 1,000, if it goes to 250, if it goes to $1, I could make so much money. So the joke is that like everyone was saying it's not about the money, but if it goes to these prices, think about how much money I'll have made. A little hypocritical, right? It should have always been about the money, especially for the people who were hurting. This could have been a great cash grab for transfer of wealth. This could have been a huge transfer of wealth to people who desperately needed it. And instead they held, and they're getting wiped out. And when you have people like voices of reason, like a lot of the legit stock talkers who were coming out going like, you know, like here's what I did with my AMC. I had a lot of shares. I sold about half at various points, at various times. I sold about half and I held the rest. But I bought at such a low price point that I'm still profitable, even though I didn't sell the other half. So you might be saying, well, do you regret not selling the other half? Of course I regret it in hindsight, but that's why I had my plan. I said, I'm going to sell half. I'm going to make unbelievable amount of money very quickly, which was really honestly just dumb luck. And we're going to see a lot of course people coming out now, which is my concern. We've always seen course guys selling their courses. We're going to see a lot more because a lot of people made dumb money really quick and they got super lucky, and they're going to read up on the stock market. They're going to get a basic understanding, and then they're going to sell you an ebook or a course or, you know, one-on-one access, and they're going to share their secrets, and they're going to make it look like they knew what they were doing. In hindsight, they're going to go, well, in hindsight, you know, of course I knew it was going to do this. And people are going to get even further ripped off because especially the people who got in on this without having a plan and without having any real knowledge are looking at this now and they're going, damn it, I need to listen to someone who's smart and I'm going to pay them to do it because, you know, if they're putting a price on it, it must be good. It's like cars. The more expensive, the better, right? Not necessarily, but that's how people view it. Oh, it's higher quality. If it's expensive, it's a higher quality item. I'll pay for it. I'll be getting good value for this. And we're going to see a lot of people get double ripped off because they lost their money. And I've gotten so many messages from people. And I think one of the big lessons that people will learn here, and I said this earlier on a TikTok video, is the majority of your money should be in good investments, right? The majority of your money should be in good investments. And then if there's something crazy happening over here that you want to be a part of, you can throw in what you're willing to lose. And I did, to be fair, see a lot of that on TikTok. I saw a lot of people going, the most I'm willing to lose is $300. I put it in, I lost it. Oh well, it's like lottery tickets. It's like scratch-off tickets. You have a mortgage and you buy lottery tickets, right? You don't spend $1,200 on scratch-offs and $20 on your mortgage, right? You spend $1,200 on your mortgage and $20 on scratch-offs because you're okay losing $20 and you know likely that you're gonna lose $20. But when you're sitting there scratching it off and looking at the numbers, it's exciting and it's fun to dream about what would happen if you won. But you know deep down, you're likely not going to win anything. Maybe you'll win $3. Okay, so you lost 17 and you made 3. You know, whatever. You were prepared to lose. You know, a lot of people are going into this going like, I'm throwing everything I have at this because some guy says that it's going to the moon. So it's a lesson learned. And for a lot of people, it's a very expensive lesson. People have lost their college savings. People have lost their life savings. People have lost, you know, money that they were saving, and it's a lot. I've gotten DMs from people ranging from unbelievable amounts, you know, 5, 6, 7,000. One guy about a year ago, even before this, said that he threw all of his money into was it Hertz or Kodak or something, and he lost $700,000. He had $1 million that he worked his whole life for, put the $1 million into what he thought was a sure thing on one of these really, oh, maybe it was Genius, I can't remember which one it was, and he put $1 million into it, and he lost. And as it was going down, he was like, no, I can't be wrong. And so he held all the way down because he couldn't be wrong. And now he ended up with getting completely wiped out. And he finally took his loss, took a $700,000 loss because he was panicking now that it was going to go even lower. And he walked away with his $300,000. and was like spiraling out of control, and messaged me and was like, can you help me? I need to make back my million. I need a sure thing. And it's like, man, you need a sure thing. Like you've learned nothing from what just happened to you. So the lesson for these people who were sitting on the sidelines, maybe watching this and maybe wanting to get in, but they didn't, is the majority of your money, and also for people who did lose a lot of money and are going to rebuild now, don't get discouraged. I'm going to see so many people over the next couple of weeks saying investing's not for me because I tried it with GameStop. That wasn't investing. It wasn't day trading. It was just gambling. It was being reckless. It was listening to strangers instead of taking profits along the way, and letting the taking out the majority and letting a little bit ride if you think it could go to the moon. I think a lot of people got played. I think a lot of people got played by hedge funds without knowing it. I think a lot of people got played by these billionaires who said, keep holding, keep holding. And we'll find out in time why some of these billionaires, maybe they didn't own it directly, but maybe someone in their family, maybe a friend, had a big loss and they were trying to use their star power to push the stock price a little higher so their friends could recoup some of their gains. We don't know. We can't trust billionaires, right? By definition, they're not on our side. And yet people keep trusting them. Anyway, the smart move to do when you rebuild, or if you didn't lose too much but you are hesitant now, is to put your money in smart, sound, quality investments, right? Index funds, ETFs, quality stocks. You can Google, right? It's not hard. You can go on Google and you can type in safest stocks to buy, best stocks to buy. Read through the articles, read them. Don't just click on and buy without doing your own homework. And familiarize yourself with these markets, and then start making some investments slowly and building over time. And then, like I said, if something comes along over here that's shiny and exciting, you put in a little bit, and if you make some money, great. And if you don't, you're not crying in your Cheerios over it. So what happens now is, and the thing is, in a way, all these hedge funds were kind of right about these stocks. They said these are garbage. I mean, have you ever been to a GameStop? People don't even like that store. I don't know why they rallied around this. And the messaging was so all over the map, right? Some people were like, it's my favorite company, we have to save it. And other people were like, it's not about the company, fuck GameStop. I don't give a shit about GameStop. It's about hurting Wall Street. I would bet you, by the way, that these funds have made back what they lost already, or are on their way to doing it. Because they're going to get loans from their friends, they're going to get bailouts, they're going to get, other hedge funds are going to help them out. They're going to make their money back. So at the end of the day, I really don't think any real lesson was taught to Wall Street, except look what retail can do. So now they have something to fix, so this never happens to them again. I saw so many people going like, this is the way it's going to be now. We own Wall Street. Really? You don't think Wall Street is just going to change? You don't think Wall Street is going to stop this? They're not just going to sit there and like roll over and be like, oh, well, but the billionaires aren't on your side. The hedge funds, maybe they were right. Maybe these were garbage companies. And a lot of people are going to get hurt from this. So what happens now? I would say this is probably pretty much over. These stocks will probably continue to trade all over the map, right? Kodak, for example, they were Trump appointed them to create a COVID vaccine. The stock goes from $3 to $60 and then down to like 11 within a few days. And we're gonna see that again with these GameStops and the AMCs and stuff. They're gonna rise up and then they're gonna plummet, but they're gonna trade around, right? I bet GameStop will bounce from the 60s to the hundreds for a while. Maybe, maybe not, but it could, right? A Kodak bounced from the 7s to the 12s for a while. Why? Why? They're not making a vaccine anymore. There's no news coming out with Kodak. That's over. So I don't understand why that stock is still trading a little higher than it should be. but it is. And I bet GameStop will be the same. AMC is the only one on that list. And no, that's not true, because BlackBerry has some stuff and Nokia had some stuff that seems promising for the future. AMC, though, also seems promising in a way. They all have their concerns. So for me, for the people who are asking about my personal position in AMC, I sold a bunch. I still have a lot. My plan was to always hold AMC, right? I didn't know that this was going to happen with GameStop and Wall Street Bets and all that stuff. I didn't know when I got into AMC in the $3 and $4 and $5 and $6 price range. Well, maybe in the $6 price range, because it was starting to move because of this. But in the 3, 4, and 5s, I was just buying because they were getting billions in loans, and that meant that they could avoid bankruptcy. So my thought long-term for AMC was, my long-term kind of projection here was based strictly on a COVID recovery. That was it. I'm not a long-term believer in AMC. They definitely have problems, right? HBO is streaming movies on live TV. People aren't going to the theaters as much. These theaters are fairly expensive to maintain and manage. And they've got a lot of them. I think what we'll end up seeing AMC do is they will close down a lot of underperforming theaters, if they haven't started already, and maybe downsize to some smaller locations, fewer theaters in general, because these theaters currently are massive. They have humongous buildings. So maybe they'll downsize, maybe they'll close the underperforming theaters. Anyway, COVID recovery, my thought was with AMC was that they would benefit from a vaccine, benefit from theaters reopening, and then I would get out. Because long term, I'm still iffy on it. But short term, I was kind of optimistic that if there's a vaccine, if we reopen theaters, if COVID is kind of, put behind us to an extent, the theaters could benefit. Look at the snow. It's like humongous. Wow, it's really snowing out there. We could really benefit from a short-term recovery here. And I would project, prior to this whole Wall Street Bets thing, my projection was AMC could be 20 in a year. So I buy and I hold it for a year. And if it gets close to, if it gets into the teens and then gets stagnant, maybe I'd sell a little. If it moves a little higher, but I'm iffy on the charts and the technical analysis, maybe I'd sell a little more. If we hit 20, I would close out the majority of my position. And then I always kind of just like YOLO a couple shares, just hold just to see what might happen. Maybe I'll hold 100, right? Maybe I'll hold 100 shares. I'll dump the rest, take my profits. I'll keep 100 or 200 shares just for the hell of it, see what happens. Hey, maybe they get bought out by Amazon, or maybe they get bought out by Apple, or maybe The Rock buys it. Who knows? Something could happen. I don't want to be out of my entire position because it's a company that I've traded in and I've had my reasons to be investing in, and so I'll hold a little. That was my plan, right? That was my plan. Hold it for a year, make a little bit of money on the COVID recovery, and get out. So my yearly plan for AMC, that was a week snap. Better. Happened in 2 weeks or less. So I took a lot of my money and I held the rest because I had a feeling, right? If you watch my TikTok videos, I said these stocks are going to come crashing down. They crashed. They came down. GameStop, I think, is pretty much going to be over. Maybe they can change their business model and whatever, and maybe come back. Of course, anything's possible. But I think for the short term, this whole thing is over. And with AMC, I think we're back on the path that we were on. COVID recovery, this was exciting, something nuts happened. And now it's back to reality, and we'll see what happens with AMC. And if I end up taking a small loss, I'll take a small loss if I don't think it can turn around. So that's AMC, that's the GameStop situation. A lot of people got hurt. I think a lot of people are going to learn some lessons here, right? Don't listen to strangers on the internet is the big one. Have a plan, stick to your plan, take your profits and YOLO a little bit. This could have been a humongous transfer of wealth if people had taken their profits. Don't trust Wall Street. They will manipulate. They will lie. They will profit on both ends. We saw that Jim Cramer, I posted on TikTok, a Jim Cramer interview from 2006, where he said, we lie, that's what we do. We push these stocks up, we profit, we short them, they tank, We play both sides. Wall Street is playing. It's like, you know what it reminded me of the other day? If you're a big I'm a humongous James Bond fan. It reminded me of the scene in, I think it was Quantum of Solace, where they detain Mr. White, and Bond and M are sitting in this room, and they've got him chained up to the chair, and Mr. White goes, "We have people everywhere." And M, Judi Dench, says, "Everyone uses that. Like, florists say we have people everywhere." Wall Street has people everywhere. And, you know, they'll manipulate and they'll play you and they'll punk you. And yeah, the couple got hurt. Terrific. You know, I'm sure some will get fired. I'm sure some have lost unbelievable sums of money. But big picture, I think the only thing that will really change from this, unfortunately, is that the regulations will be targeted to the retail investors. And you know what they'll say? We're just trying to protect the little guy. Because to be fair, a lot of people did get wiped out because they didn't know what they were doing. So that is the angle they will use. We're just trying to protect the little guy. So we have to set up these restrictions, and we have to set up these new regulations, and we have to set up these new laws because so many people got hurt. And in a way, it's true, but in a way, it continues to allow the banks and the hedge funds to get away with what they've always gotten away with, because the person who has the money has the power, and the house always wins. So for me, I will regroup. I spent a lot of the last couple of weeks on TikTok, and the joke is, like I always say, the busier I am on TikTok, the less I'm trading for whatever reason. Like maybe it's just a quiet week or whatever. I was very active on TikTok. I was very overwhelmed and appreciative of the amount of followers that I got. 115,000 as of this morning. I was at 36,000 a week or so ago, so I'm kind of stunned. And I was a little overwhelmed, not gonna lie. I didn't know how I was gonna get through all those DMs. Didn't know how I was gonna get through all those messages. It was a lot. And I'm a little bit relieved that everything has kind of died down a little bit. Everything has calmed down. A lot of people got really interested in this. It reminds me of like Marie Kondo, you know, like, does it spark joy? All these trendy things that like pop up, they grab the spotlight. Everyone's excited about it. Everyone's obsessed with it. And then people lose interest and they move on to the next trendy thing. But a couple people stay behind. And, you know, it's the same way with Marie Kondo. Does it spark joy? And it got like, people were obsessed with it. And now there are commercials on TV for those like storage rental units. You know, don't get rid of your things, just hire us. We'll take your stuff and you can pay us money to lock your stuff in a warehouse, right? Which seems so stupid, but people are about it, right? Like they don't want to part with their things. They'd rather rent a closet, basically, outside of their home to store their stuff, which makes me so sad because you're basically giving money to hold things that you're never going to use again. And when you die, your kids are going to have to sort through that stuff and they're going to go like, why did our parents pay $50 a month or $500 a year? I don't even know what these storage rooms cost. Why did they spend all that money, all this time? My God. Anyway, the point to that was people, you know, they look at this as like a hot trend and then they give up and they lose interest. And I think some people will stick behind. I hope a lot of people do stay behind. And I hope a lot of people don't get discouraged. And I hope a lot of people just don't say, oh, the markets are manipulated. I don't want to be a part of it. Like, we know the markets are manipulated. We know these hedge funds are terrible. We know they're awful. We know they're evil. But it still is important to have some investments. That's how you build wealth. So are you a little bit hypocritical? Of course, right? We all are. We all hate it, but we're a part of it. And you're a hypocrite about other things too. We all are. It's a great way to build wealth over the long term. I understand most people don't want to trade stocks, and you don't have to. But everyone should have some quality investments. And, you know, the hedge funds are going to manipulate. They're going to do what they do. But if you buy and hold for the long term, and you buy high quality stuff, and you're investing in smart things, and you're reading up on your stocks and reading up on your investments and going, this one isn't working, I'm cutting my loss and I'm moving over here now, you know, it's still something worth doing because it buys you freedom. Financial freedom. It buys you freedom potentially from your work. It allows you maybe to retire early. or earlier than you had hoped. So, you know, it's one of those things that you kind of have to do, even if you don't like it. It's the smart move, and you know, it doesn't even have to be well. You could buy an income property, but those are a little bit harder to come by, right? You know, you have to have a lot of money to put down. You can buy a couple shares of an ETF right now and start compounding and adding very slowly. You can't do that with a house. You can't just be like, can I just give you like a very small amount of money? Can I just start with $100 and, you know, never gonna happen. Anyway, I'm doing that thing again where I ramble, and what I was gonna say is I've been very busy on TikTok. I haven't been trading too much. I have had a lot of positions, swing trade positions that, you know, one other thing I wanted to talk about. If you did happen to make money on this, and maybe you made a substantial amount and you're new to this, it's gonna be very hard to go back to reality. Speaking from experience, and that's also why I have taken the last kind of week off from trading, because when you, like, if you follow me, you know, I aim for around $200, even up to $400 per trade, and swing trade is a little bit higher because I'm holding for a little bit longer. When you are used to making $200, $600, $900 on some trades, and then you get into something like AMC and you make tons of money really quickly, it can be very hard to then go back to your small time trades of $200. It was hard for me. It was hard for me when it happened with Kodak. It was hard for me when it happened with AMC last week, to then go look at my other positions and go, oh man, I'm only up $200. Man, I want it to go higher like AMC did. So it sometimes is a good idea if you had a big profit to step back, take a second and be like, whoa, this is not normal. This won't probably happen again for a while, if at all. I should be very grateful for this. And I'm gonna cool down. And then I can go back to my routine of making my little bits of money that add up to something maybe substantial. So that's what I did. I've taken the week off. Someone texted me last night and said, what are you trading? What are you looking at next week? And I said, I haven't even started. I'll start fresh on Monday and we'll go from there. Usually if you watch this show, I talk about what companies are having earnings next week. I didn't do that because I thought this was more important. Earnings Whisper on Instagram is a great page to follow. And I think that's about it. I hope you didn't lose too much. I hope if you sold that you made some money. And I think we learned a lot of lessons from this week, especially new investors and new traders. And the sun is coming out or something. It's getting suddenly very bright. So I'm going to take that as my cue to exit. Thanks for watching. Click the bell if you want. Click the little notifications. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm going to go outside and play in the snow.